Hey everyone! In the run-up to the Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco on the 15th of February, I wanted to make a few short how-to videos talking about some of the things that I will look at when getting prepared for a race. There are four main key things: analysis, comfort, kit, and technology. Comfort might sound a bit weird, but we'll come on to that when we get to the video. Analysis is the most important because it sort of sets up all the information for the rest. You actually want to start doing analysis before you enter a race so you can understand if it is for you. And then in more detail once you hopefully get accepted. There are a few key areas to analysis. You have route, you have location, you have terrain and topography, you have weather, and you have local culture. And if you see me looking down, it's because I've got a few notes just so I don't forget anything important, which will be quite embarrassing. So route is the first one to be looking at. Obviously, I've got Ride with GPS up here, and it's what I use to start getting an understanding of the route. With Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco, you're actually given a route by the organiser, so you don't need to plan your own, unlike in Transcontinental Race. This is one of the key factors. Perhaps you don't have time or the inclination to plan your own route, so you might want to enter a fixed route race. Just because a route is given to you doesn't mean you shouldn't learn about it. So you want to start going into some mapping software, learning the lefts and the rights, and learning what the kind of route is like in general, where you go from, where you go to. It's important to not just put it on your GPS on the start line and follow it blindly. There might even be an error, which you can find. Location. Where is the race? You need to be thinking about travel for getting there. How early do you need to arrive before the race? Morocco's not so far from me, so it's not too bad. A day or two before is more than enough. Visas. Do you need one? Local currency. Can you get it? Do you need to get it in the country? Medical and insurance. Is there sort of the medical availability that you need there? Perhaps you have, certain medical issues. You need to get insurance that's going to cover you for the race you're doing. And we are racing, so it is generally a little bit harder to get insurance. And make sure you don't cheap out because it is very important. Vaccinations. When I went to Kyrgyzstan, I needed to get quite a few vaccinations. And now, thankfully, these will cover me for other races. One of the final ones is sort of the availability of stuff in the local area. When we went to Kyrgyzstan, I was using 12-speed Shimano. 12-speed Shimano doesn't exist in Kyrgyzstan. So I actually took out a complete spare group set with me just in case anything happened while I was out there training and touring before the race. The third one is terrain and topography. You want to look at this a bit before the race to help understand, and then it is really in more detail once you've been entered. And this is going to help set up deciding what sort of bike you're going to take and what sort of equipment you need. So when we look on Ride with GPS, we're looking at things for like the total altitude. So the highest that we're going to get to is about 2,400 in this race, and then it's lower from there. And also you want to be looking about the climbing and descending in the race to understand if it's a hilly race or if it's a flat race. Perhaps you like flat races like the race around the Netherlands, or perhaps you like mountainous races like Silk Road. Atlas is sort of a bit less mountainous than Silk Road. I've actually got this set on the map base OSM at the moment, and one of the things on Ride with GPS is that you can change the map bases. I find OSM really useful because you can start to understand what's in the local area. As it is an open source mapping, it is kept up to date, and you can see the towns that you're going to be going through along the route and what shops and resources there are. If there's an ATM, or if there's food, maybe if there's a hotel. And there are all of those things on the route in Morocco. You can also then go on to satellite. And if you then start zooming in on the race, you can start to understand what the terrain is like. And start to see if it's like really rocky or if it's a bit smoother. And you can actually generally make out a lot of things from satellite if you're prepared to squint a little bit. I find it quite useful. You also want to know what the water availability is like, just for topping up your bottles along the way. Are you going to need to stop in the towns? You're going to want to mark down resupply. Or are you going to be able to get water along the route? Do you need to put pills in it? In Kyrgyzstan, you needed to sterilise all of the water. But in Scotland at the Highland Trail, it really wasn't needed, and water was available everywhere. Coming on to weather. Now, as we just said, the elevation here is about 2,400 meters at maximum, and that's outside of the main city. So when you're looking at weather, there are two important things. What is the sort of average weather like? And what is the worst case scenario weather like? So February in Morocco, if you go onto the online, you can sort of get a 15-year weather average and start to understand from that. One of the things to be careful about is that in the main city, where Marrakesh is about 400-500 meters. because that's not really relevant to when you're out in the mountains. So you need to be thinking about worst case as well. So for perhaps February, there might be snow up at altitude, and you need to be prepared for that because we are going to be exposed and out there, and you need to be able to look after yourself. Local culture. So this is one of the most important things, really. We are all traveling into these countries, and we need to be respectful of the local cultures and, to be able to enjoy it and immerse ourselves in it. More specifically, you might want to think about dietary requirements that you have, whether you're vegetarian, vegan, perhaps you're lactose intolerant. Thankfully, I don't have too many issues, so generally I can eat whatever is going, and that normally means a lot of chocolate bars, sadly. Food availability is one of the things that can be a bit difficult. Do you actually want to take some food with you to start the race? Perhaps just because you have special dietary requirements, perhaps just because you think it's a good decision. Language is another thing. You might want to write down some short phrases that might find useful, especially if you have specific medical needs or dietary requirements, so you've got them there so you can just show them to people. So save a lot of hand gestures when you're tired after 3 days constant riding. The main thing though is just respecting the local culture and the local people and enjoying that and making sure that they have a good memory of you as well as you having a good memory of them. This was the first video on analysis, one of the most important ones, as I say, and this does set us up for the rest, which we will be coming onto in the following. Thank you.